You guys. All right, so welcome. My name is Emily Knife. I am a somatic nurse, and what that is, it's a nurse that handles the nervous system, and we don't have any nurses that currently do that. So I'm here to share somatic nursing with everybody in a form that a treatment is now been produced, and it's in a patch. And it's really cool. And I'm going to share that with everybody today because I think it's so important that we have other options rather than just pills. Because that's been the ongoing problem that big pharma and the government just like to put pills on people and it's becoming a huge problem. It's not only causing more problems in people's bodies, it's killing people, and we don't want that. And as a nurse, I want people to get better, and ultimately that's why doctors go into practice as well, and we're not doing any of that right now in the traditional medical system. So I wanted to introduce a product that I've been working with that has seen just crazy results. Even like skeptics are coming on board because it just makes sense. If we were taught this back in elementary school, we would not be reaching for pills. We would be actually trying to calm our nervous system. So, in that regard, let's talk about the nervous system. So, who here knows about the nervous system or understands the nervous system? All right. If you don't, that's okay because you haven't been taught that. You haven't been taught the nervous system, unfortunately. It's just how it is. And the reason why we haven't been taught the nervous system is because if you did, you wouldn't be on all these pills. That's why I'm here to tell you this. And I'm a nurse because I was tired of the conventional way things were going. I was tired of seeing patients that just kept coming in sick after sick after sick, asking for more and more pills. This is becoming a serious issue, and you can hear the tone in my voice that it is a very serious issue. And I've been fighting against Big Pharma now for about 13 years, still winning. We're still winning because there are people, actually 90% of patients, if we have any doctors or healthcare workers on here, 90% of patients, according to the good old Google, want something different than pills. It's a no-brainer. So doctors and nurses need to get in on this. It's a very new company, 20 months old. It's only been researched for about 13 years, longer than the COVID vaccine. So talk to me about peer reviews. Talk to me about how it works because I know that it works. And it's funny because I've had so many questions about how does it work? Where are the peer reviews? It's like, do you ask your doctor that when you're prescribed a pill? Probably not, probably not. But this is something so new and something so out of the normal that people are wanting more information on it. So let's get to the basics really quick and teach on the nervous system, and then we'll go into the nitty gritty and I'll talk about the patch, and we'll be wrapped up in about just under 25 minutes here. So not keeping you guys too long. So stay with me here. This is going to be super interactive. So I just want you to take a moment and just notice your own energetic level and notice your breathing. Our breath is directly related to our nervous system. If we are hyperventilating, our nervous system has ambulance lights on, right? If we are slow and controlled breathing, if we're in a meditative state, our nervous system feels that juicy, lovely vibe that it's getting through the body. It is within flow. It feels that vibration of the breath that goes through the body, right? So just checking yourself just for a moment and just see your energy level. Maybe it's a low, maybe it's high. That's your nervous system, right? When our nervous system's taken care of, we are in a state called homeostasis. And you might have heard of that. And it hasn't been a word that's very often floating around, but homeostasis is when the body is working all together. It's so beautiful when it's working that way. And that comes in regard to our nervous system. When our nervous systems, all the highways and the byways in the body, when it's working, it's in homeostasis. And so our nervous system is the number one system that we need to be looking at before the cardiovascular, before the digestive, because it all comes back to the nervous system. Your nervous system was the first system built in your body along with the endocannabinoid system. And we can talk about that a different day. But that's just as important as the nervous system. So if you look at this picture here and we go down to the bottom where it says start, right? We have our nervous system going all throughout our body, all throughout our arms, our legs, everywhere. So when you touch your skin, just take a moment, touch your arm or leg or a part of your body, you can feel that. So here we go. When those sensory structures are detected, changes internal or external environment, it starts the sensory reaction. So our visceral sensory receptors monitor internal organs. We have somatic sensory receptors that provide position, touch, pressure, pain, temperature, and sensitivities. And then we have those special sensory receptors that help with our taste, our smell, our vision, right? All of our senses, even balancing. So we have these awesome sensory receptors, right? Which is like a key and lock feature, which we also see in the chemical composition of big pharma meds. Okay, so we do have that lock and key structure throughout our body, and we can mimic it with a chemical. That's why we have pills for everything. We take a pill, it has a little key, and then it goes in our body and it swims around and it finds the receptor, and then it says, ta da! There we go, right? And then you may not have any pain anymore. So that's how that key and lock feature works. Very similar to the nervous system. We have our peripheral nervous system, right, which is the neural tissue outside the central nervous system. And then you have your central nervous system, which is your brain and your spinal cord, again, developed at conception. Then we go to the information processing, right? So the body receives this stimuli, the touch. It sends messages to the brain saying, you've just been touched. What do you want to do with that information, right? This comes the important part. Now you have to respond. So your nervous system, if it's been going a certain way for so long, like you've been in fight or flight, or you've experienced trauma, or you've experienced chronic pain or stress, it is on a constant feedback loop that you've learned through that trauma or that pain, if that makes sense. So now we have a new highway, and we've created a new highway because of trauma, pain, or stress, inflammation in the body. So when our highways are crushed, right? If we look at a huge highway, Spaghetti Junction, like in Atlanta, and I just crush one of those highways, now I have cars just falling off. That's what happens in your body. And there goes the pain. Pain, here's another car. Pain, pain, right? And we just keep doing that until we reconnect those neural pathways. And then I have my cars going back across my Spaghetti Junction, right? So our body is a huge highway, and the cars are signaling, or nervous system signaling. So hopefully that makes a little bit more sense of the nervous system. That's how I like to describe it as a professor of 13 years. That's not how it's taught in medical or nursing school. I will tell you that right now. I've been kicked out of classrooms teaching this. So here we go. We're going to get to the nitty gritty here. So how do we insert a patch into that neural pathway to make the cars keep going across? It's pretty fabulous. So we're going to talk about that. So when the body gets touched, it sends those messages to the brain, and then the motor division of the PNS carries those motor commands from the CNS to the peripheral tissues of the system, which is your whole body. So it comes up to the brain, it goes into like the little compartment, the little department where it filters, and it's like, okay, I've been touched. I'm going to go ahead and send it back down to the arm so that person can feel it. It is like milliseconds, right? Because as soon as you touch yourself, you're like, oh, I touched myself. That is so quick, and such a cool feature that our body has. And so we have two different systems that go from the motor division. So we have two different departments. We have the somatic nervous system, which I teach a lot about, and the autonomic nervous system. Both do different things. Somatic system is going to be the skeletal muscle contractions, and then the ANS is going to be the smooth muscles, cardiac muscles like the hearts, glands, hormones, adipose tissue, which is also known as fat. Now, that causes the reaction. We have skeletal muscles, and then on the right, we have smooth muscles, cardiac muscles, glands, adipose tissues. So as you can see, this is going to create a response. Now, say you hug somebody that you truly just love so much, that takes a flooding of chemicals. So you might feel like happy serotonin busting through your body, like, ooh, I'm in love, right? So this is how your nervous system works. And I wanted to show this because like 80% of adults don't know how the nervous system works. And that's the main system in your body. So that tells me that we are just going to continue being in this sick care cycle if we don't understand our actual bodies. And how is it that we're in education for 18 years and don't learn about this? I don't know, maybe because the government is involved in our education. Who knows? That's just a theory, right? So if you look at the neural anatomy, so this is broken down even further. Can everybody see this okay? A little bit, right? So these are all the neurons that I'm talking about. These are our little messengers. And what's so awesome about this, these little guys right here, the synapse, right? This is where the body receives the messages. So it's almost like a hop. When you see it in action, it's like an electrical hop because our bodies are electric, they're energetic, right? Our bodies are filled with energy. As you know, our SA node of our heart is an electrical impulse that stimulates the heart, the cardiac muscle, to beat, right? So, how can people not say we're energetic? We are totally energetic. Our nervous system is energy. That's why you might get really tired when you go to large crowds, or maybe if you're in a class with somebody that has a lot of energy next to you, that might wear you out, right? So, it's really important to be aware of your own energetics, just as important as it is to understand the nervous system. So this really cool neural impulse, the dendrites here are the little finger like projections that receive the message. And then we have the synapse that sends out the message. Okay, so the dendrites are like, yay, give me the message. And then it goes through this neural impulse. This is where the decision is made to react to that response to the nervous system. So if somebody has been inflicted with trauma of some sort, their body has become damaged in that neural pathway, and we have to figure out a way to get that back. And sometimes the traditional ways are like talk therapy, medication. And as we know, with the rate of suicide increasing, we are starting to figure out that those two things are not working. So I want to just open it up really quick to any questions that you might have before we go into more of the patch. Any questions? Okay. All
I
right.
kind of
Yeah, go
uh
ahead.
so because I was in a car accident in 2018. Is
Okay.
it different to have like physical damage versus like emotional that kind like is there a difference in how that impacts those
Yeah.
connections?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So, yeah, so physical and emotional are all tied back to the nervous system. So, even if you've had say you've had a car accident, right? And you get hit from behind and your head goes forward and you get whiplash and that affects your whole nervous system, right? There is also an emotional reaction to that. So, the physical pain and the emotional pain are interconnected. So usually when we fix that physical pain, we see a difference in the emotional composition of the person experiencing that pain. Does that make sense or clear?
That's it, because I feel like a lot of what like modern therapies and stuff we're targeting is the emotional stuff, whereas right now I'm trying to focus more on the physical. um
Absolutely.
I'm reversing it.
Yeah, yeah. And
Reverse.
so, yeah, absolutely. And so that is, it's interesting because, like I said, they're just totally interconnected, right? As a nurse, all of our patients are mental health patients first because it's an emotional reaction to an external or an internal stimuli. So you're having a physical reaction, which is going to cause an emotional reaction, right? So if you've already kind of figured out the emotional piece, now you're trying to take care of the physical piece. These patches are going to be amazing for that because they're physical nervous system pieces, right? They're connecting and reconnecting the neural pathways.
Is um
Go
it,
ahead.
like for me it took me a while to kind of piece everything together. I think because I had lost consciousness, so there was kind of some chunking that I had to put together, and then I
Yeah.
was an alcoholic for about a few years, I don't know exactly, where I blacked out a lot too. So is there like deeper work
Yeah.
almost than when you're in that kind of state?
Yeah, so that's a great question too. And I think it's really important to hit on like TBIs, alcoholism, or even unconscious cannabis use. We have a patch for all those things. And what's great is we're just reconnecting those neural pathways. So it's not that it's like deeper work because all of our neural pathways run throughout the body. So whatever we're trying to target, the thumbprint or the QR code that's kind of on the patch that I'll show you guys here in a second, it goes on your skin and the nervous system is like, oh, look at this code. This matches the code of the TBI that I had. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that highway so this person can regain balance, control, energy, go without depression, increase happiness, reduce headaches, right? So there's different varying symptoms with each of those things that you said, but absolutely.
I have a migraine today.
Oh yeah, I know. I wish you had a patch. I'm gonna have to send you some so you can try it out. But absolutely, we've seen a lot of awesome effects and positive side effects of these patches with our TBI people, especially veterans that have TBIs. So I'm excited to see how veterans just change the trajectory of their life because we have so many veterans that are affected by just all sorts of different things. And it relates back to the nervous system. I mean, even going to the grocery store, some of them can't even go to the grocery store because of the social, the just the overwhelming feeling that they get. And that's related back to the nervous system. So it's really cool how this patch works. And I'll show you guys more in a second. And I just want to briefly go over this because I think it's really important that we understand this in the United States, especially that the government is overseeing all of this. And we need to make sure we understand the implications that it's causing for our own self and families, patients, friends, coworkers, or whoever you might meet in this lifetime. That you're not going to get better. You're going to get sicker if you stay in traditional healthcare. So if we look at government is over everything, there are lovely umbrella here, right? We've got this lovely umbrella. And Big Pharma is right under them. They are lovers. They love each other. They're in conjunction. They have this huge relationship. And so when we look at Big Pharma, they have a couple of different entities. Okay, so we have insurance, and I think you might know by now if there's a symptom, there is a drug. And if there's not a symptom, we'll create a drug and create a symptom, right? So they're always coming out every day with more and more medications for all sorts of things that you didn't even think you had a problem with. Restless leg syndrome, is it really a problem, or should we throw a little melatonin? Magnesium through it and see what happens because those two things will put your ass to sleep before any pill would. So it's really important to understand that there's always, I'm going to underline, capitalize, quote unquote, always other options. You're not seeing it because you've been brainwashed and thinking that this is the way, but there's always another way. I've traveled the world and I have seen multiple ways that people are healing from ALS to MS to cancer, and it's without those hard drugs that we're being given here in the United States. The world is very different outside of the United States when it comes to healing and medications. I can tell you that right now. So it's pretty interesting that we have the insurance companies, they are also under Big Pharma, right? Because they are like, yes, you have another drug, we can add it to our portfolio and give it to our patients and charge premium price for it, right? So we got the insurance companies. Guess what else we've got? Med schools. Yeah, that's pretty messed up, right? So we're not really teaching our doctors or nurses how to help heal the body. We're teaching them how to cover a symptomology that will have serious repercussions down the road if it chronically gets ignored. Welcome to med school in the United States. That's how we teach. All right, and then the last but not least, sometimes I think the FDA might be in cahoots with these guys. Who knows? If you look on Google, they are. But we've got the FDA, and then we've got all those other government agencies like Medicare, Medicaid. All of those guys are all having a party together as well. So as you can see, it's really hard to escape. Oh, hold on. I forgot one thing. Oh, media. That's right. Right. So the media is also in conjunction with the government and Big Pharma. Wait, we see all those lovely ads. Now they're coming across my LinkedIn and I'm not liking it. I'm like, why am I getting drug ads on LinkedIn? Really? Come on now, guys. So here's your circle. Here's your circle. And so this is the circle that creates the sickness, right? So we've got all of that. Now, real quick, once you have a symptom, so say you have a headache, you go to a doctor. What are they going to do? They're not going to be like, hey, let me talk to you about movement, your environment, what kind of food you're eating, and your trauma. They're not going to say that. They're going to be like, sweet, you have a headache? I have a pill for you. And here we go. Here comes the cycle. All right. Now you get a pill for your headache, and it's causing you digestive issues. It's not fitting with your body because your body's like, I don't like this. You shouldn't be taking care of this. You should actually figure out what's wrong with you so I can get into homeostasis, right? So now I have digestive issues. So I go to the doctor. I'm like, hey, doc, I have this headache. It's kind of going away, but now my stomach is just horrible. I'm having diarrhea. I have to stop all the time. My stomach hurts so bad. And he's going to be like, I have a pill for you. Now you're on 2 pills for a freaking headache that you have because your house is filled with mold. For a headache you have because you are eating too much sugar. For a headache you have because you are not moving your body enough and you're spending too much time inside. You're not getting out in nature, right? Do you see how that has nothing to do with it? Doesn't. We're not looking at the right things as a medical professional. And so I encourage you as a medical professional, or even just as a human, mom, dad, caregiver, to understand that it comes back to the nervous system. This is all bullshit. They've been taught and teaching this, and it's not correct. All right. So that being said, so I want to go ahead and just drop this into you guys here. So let me go ahead and share my screen, and we're going to talk about all of the awesome symptomology that the super patch covers. Okay. So why I love this is that it really hits many different areas and targets a lot of different medications that we're giving to not only our kids, but our seniors and everybody in between. And what's great about these patches is that they can be used on babies. I have a baby that wasn't sleeping. The mom put an REM patch, not the band, but REM as in sleep, right? And it took care of, she woke up in the morning, refreshed and ready to go and like her old self. She was struggling to sleep. She had an ear infection. And she woke up and she was better and she had no more ear infection, right? So it's amazing what these are doing. Again, it's focusing on the nervous system, right? And when our nervous system is working and it's in homeostasis, then of course we're going to feel better, right? We're going to feel better and everything's going to work better, even our immune system, our digestive system, and all of the systems that are connected to the nervous system, which is all of them, right? So these different patches do different things, right? So we have the Liberty patch. This is great. We have used it on tons of seniors that have walkers and canes. And as soon as we put the patch on, no more walker, no more cane. Like it's mind blowing what this does. So I would love to get it into long-term care and assisted living because it's going to change the paradigm of how people are functioning. You also get better range of motion. So this is also good if you have somebody that's playing sports or high intensity exercises. This might be good instead of a pre-workout. We've got the Freedom Patch. This is our pain patch, and it has shown so many tremendous testimonies of how it's helped with arthritic pain, period pain, pain from cancer treatments, the whole nine. Any pain you have is all of the same neural pathway. So it doesn't matter where you got your pain or how your pain happened, it's the same neural pathway. It falls under pain, right? The pain neural pathway is the same for any pain you experience. So it doesn't matter where you got that pain, if that makes sense. The next patch, we have the Lumia patch. This patch is going to take over the derm industry in a hot second. This patch right here, we've had it on teens with hormonal acne, cleared it right up in several weeks. Psoriasis, eczema, it's cleared up their skin without any creams, pills, or anything like that, because I know how annoying it is to go to the derm doctor, wait for an hour, get seen for 5 minutes, walk out paying $175 with a prescription for another cream, right? So it's just, it's a problem. We're not solving any root problems. We're solving a symptom. So with the patch, it goes straight to the problem area, which is our nervous system. The REM patch, which I just talked about for sleep, defend is immune. So if you're feeling sick, The cold weather is coming in a lot of areas of the United States. That time we stay indoors a lot. Increased sickness does happen from colds to stomach bugs. So that's a good one also to put on you, you know, during the time that you're feeling a little bit lower. Rocket Patch is for reclaimed energy, stamina, and passion. This one, y'all, this one is also good for libido. So if you're having trouble in the sack, right here, get that Rocket Patch. Skip the Viagra, see what that Rocket Patch can do for you. And we've got the Joy Patch, which is great, like it's an antidepressant. We've got your Wellbutrin, we've got your Lexapro, all those different medications fall under this Joy Patch. So if you have been on an antidepressant, I highly suggest switching this over, but also pairing it up with the Kick It patch, because what we have after we stop an SSRI can be really deadly. It can cause some really serious problems. A lot of big pharma medication, once stopped, can cause a lot of serious problems in the body because you're just putting chemical in, chemical in, chemical in. When you don't have that chemical anymore, it's going to cause withdrawal symptoms, just like we would have as somebody that was overusing alcohol or heroin or cocaine. It's the same thing. It's creating that chemical reaction. Ignite patch is for fat loss or increasing your metabolic rate, which is awesome. It reduces cravings. So if you are on a weight loss journey or you're trying to get into a fitter version of yourself, this would be a great way to go. You know, move over Ozempic. Let's try this first, right? Who wants to inject themselves every day or every other day? It's not fun, right? So let's try this Ignite patch first. And then the last 3 and 4 here, we've got Victory patch. This is great for sports again, enhanced stamina, more agility, faster recovery. So this Victory patch, we've seen a lot of people taking after post surgery. So if you just had a knee replacement, hip replacement, breast reduction, tummy tuck, whatever you've had, throw the Victory patch on. You'll see a faster recovery. Focus patch, ADHD, right? It's Adderall. Those 2 words I'm going to throw out. Focus patch. We've had people get off of Adderall, which is just mind blowing to me and so awesome. Peace patch is going to help the nervous system calm. And then Kick It patch again is for addiction. And in November, I'm so excited. We have the energy patch coming. So instead of drinking that caffeine and that coffee in the morning, or your tea, or your Bang, or Monster energy drink, you slap an energy patch on and it will give you that zing and that buzz that you usually get from caffeine. So any questions about any of the patches in regard to what I have on the screen right here? Okay. All right, perfect. So last but not least, I just want to show everybody real quick, and then I'll open up the floor for questions, is where can you put this? Where can you put this? This is the number 1 question I get. Where can you put this? And it's very similar to medication patches that are offered by our pharmaceutical companies. And hold on 1 second, I'll get to your question here. So if you look at this, this is all the areas that you can place it. Okay. So we've got on the back of the body, right? We got the calves, the back of the legs, the lower back. And then also you can see this is going along the spinal area. This area is right on top of the shoulder blades. It's areas where there's not a lot of adipose tissue, fatty tissue, right? We want to get to the central nervous system as quick as we can. The wrists are a really great place. Placing it on the wrist, the shoulders, and then also the front of the hips is usually a place where we don't have a lot of fat tissue. So you want to place it somewhere where there's not a lot of fatty tissue, and you're going to feel the solution happen pretty instantaneously. It just depends how fast your nervous system reacts to that patch. All right. Okay, let's go ahead and open it up here. Who has a question that I can try to help answer? Yes.
So one of the things that popped up for me actually when you were talking about the keto, because I work with kids with autism, and one of the things that has stood out to me, I had a client that I was working with whose mom had told me that she was on antibiotics for her entire pregnancy. This was in India that they had her on those. So I don't know if that's something that is um normal here in America. Like I'm actually allergic to penicillin, so I've never taken an antibiotic that I know of other than one time and I stopped breathing, so my mom kept them away. I think when I was in my early 20s, I may have been on some that were not penicillin based, but
Yeah.
regardless, my question is about epigenetics and
Yeah.
how is there any research that's showing, parents that are prescribed these pharmaceuticals, how that might be impacting their kiddos?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I know there is a ton of research, not in relation to the patch, but in regard to the epigenetics. Absolutely, because the medication is changing the DNA. It's changing the DNA within the body, just as we saw with the COVID vaccine. I mean, that's changing the mRNA, it's changing your genetic blueprint. So absolutely, I totally know that there are studies in relation to that. But in regard to the patch intersecting with that, I'm not sure. Just because the patch itself is going in and reconnecting neural pathways. So, in regards to the epigenetics, I don't know if it has a connection point, if that makes sense, right? It's like two separate things. But I know that kids are very affected by the medications that moms take while
But
babies are
it was
in tummy.
I with fetal alcohol syndrome because it was really frustrating to me to hear. I worked at camp for kids with fetal alcohol syndrome,
Yeah.
and a lot of what they were talking about during our training was, mom, if mom consumes, if mom consumes, if mom consumes. And I'm like, well, what about if dad is consuming? And when I read into the research, there is actually research that shows that the physical characteristics of fetal alcohol syndrome are more related to dad's consumption of alcohol. And that does kind of bring me into a second question about if you know about how long the effects of, like, once you come off pharmaceuticals, how long can that affect your body, or is that kind of a long-term thing?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's a very common question I get from all sorts of people that want to come off of medications, but they're afraid to because they're like, what are the side effects going to be? Right. And how long are they going to last for? So I think, it just depends on the medication. Some medications are a lot harder. Some medications are a lot easier to get off depending on the potency and the chemical composition that they have within the medication itself. Right. So if we look at like SSRIs for antidepressant, that is a pretty horrendous tapering, right? So
It
usually with
does an alcohol that can kill you, right?
yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Just
Yeah. Yeah. When you're coming off SSRIs, like you could potentially die. I mean, it's a serious situation, right? And so I know with the people that I see when they're trying to get off of SSRIs, we do a little bit of a microdosing scheduling. But I know with the patch, we can also combat those effects with like the joy patch, right? So we're already instilling and reconnecting those neural pathways for your depression that you've been diagnosed with, right? For your unhappiness. So it creates that instant joy within the body. So it's all about maybe even combining patches. They're good up to 24 hours. But you can put multiple patches on your body. Obviously, you want to stack them in different areas. Maybe I put a joy patch on my wrist, and then maybe I put a victory patch on my back or on my hip. So just like medication, you might have to take multiple medications depending on whatever symptomology you're trying to fight with.
and I think
Or
that's
go
that
ahead.
I've really had to fight my doctors on because it's like, well, I took my last pharmaceutical in 2019 and I stopped drinking in 2021. And they're like, well, it's out of your system. You're fine. Except for substance abuse counselors tell me it could take up to 4 years to detox my brainstem. And I think that that's still not taking into consideration that I came cold turkey off benzos, Adderall, and alcohol
Yeah.
within a year. And so I feel like that really has had a long term effect on my body.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it wreaks havoc, right? If you're doing something for so long and we're creating damage with the body, it's going to take a moment for that body to repair itself. So, absolutely. And especially internally, it's not like we, run outside and we cut our hand or whatever and we can see it healing. We can't see the internal body healing, but we can feel it, right? We can feel when we feel good. We can feel when we're getting better. So, yeah, like you said, I think in conjunction with that healing process, I think it will be shortened for sure because we are telling the body like, hey, here is your homeostasis neural pathway, and if you can keep doing that, the neural pathways will start to conjoin. If we do it on repeat, right? That's why habits become habits. After 15 days, if you're doing the same thing every day, it's going to become a habit. So, the same thing with our nervous system. If we continually tell it, like, you should be rerouting and going this way, it's eventually going to do that way. And you probably won't even need the patch. That's what's so great about microdose and psilocybin. Very similar blueprint when it comes to reconnecting the nervous system. So, yeah. So, if you don't want to dabble in the microdosing, try the patch first because it does very synergistic things. So hopefully that answers your question. That's a great question. But yeah, I think it's dependent on the person, dependent on the medication. And nobody really knows. I don't think doctors or therapists can really tell you, like, hey, it's going to take 4 years, it's going to take 10 years. They don't
It's
know.
very individualized too. One of the
Absolutely.
things that we found, my fiance and I relocated to Michigan because in Ohio, it was, I mean, the sick care in Ohio was wild. I mean, every little thing was just let's push a pill, let's push a pill. And here in Michigan, we've been able to get something called a core score testing
Yeah.
through a chiropractor, and that showed that both of us are in a chronic fight or flight state,
Hmm.
even when we're at rest.
Yeah.
um, they're still in that fight or flight state, and that's really, I think, shows that like that's something that a pill is not going to fix. That's something that has to be targeted through nutrition and environment and
Absolutely.
other modalities, movement.
Yeah.
Trying to
Yeah.
be a work, it's hard.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think you make such a great point that, it isn't just a pill. It is environment. It is nutrition. It is movement. It's all Maslow's hierarchy at the bottom. He's like, if you don't have shelter, if you don't have relationships, if you don't have food and water, you're gonna die. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing more and more people die because,
Why recovery is so hard for individuals. I mean, if you look at the demographic of the people
yeah,
that are dying, in my observation, it seems to be people of lower socioeconomic status from communities because they don't have access. So for me, one of the reasons why I became so passionate about the work that I do is because I realized that like recovery, it would be so easy to just continue drinking, continue
yeah,
taking pills. That's the environment that I was in. That's what all my friends were doing, all my family
right,
members. They're like, Leah, there's something wrong with you. You need to just take your pills, you know?
yeah,
Really good documentary is called Take Your Pills.
yeah,
And I really feel like those individuals need to have a space to be able to navigate their recovery with
yeah,
the support of a community that right now really doesn't exist because all of the inpatient facilities, anything that's covered by Medicaid, is going to
yeah,
be pushing
yeah.
fees and things that, in my experience, are really just locking people into this vicious cycle.
Yeah. Yeah, you're totally right. Yeah, and it is a vicious cycle. It's one pill after another, right? And as we know with psych meds, it comes with a myriad of side effects. And so they're just waiting for you to come back and be like, yeah, doc, like I got a low libido. All right, well, let's give you a Viagra. Really? Like, let's look at
And
the
same,
whole picture, right?
I you go and you get your MAT, and then
Yeah,
experience the individuals that are getting those. They're leaving with nausea. They're leaving with headaches. They're leaving with a low quality of life. That
yeah,
for me, experience when I was consuming cannabis. I didn't have all those things that I watched other people deal with. And even in my peer recovery support training, every single person in there, there was about 5 or 6 other people in my training that were using MATs. They're nodding off, they're fighting with each other. And then they're telling me, I wish that I could have had access to cannabis instead of Suboxone and methadone.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
I
So yeah. You know, and as the world, as the United States, as we trickle in onto these plant medicines and patches and all of this newest technology, hopefully we can see the world becoming a better place. But I know it's going to take individuals coming together and just sharing the information and the knowledge that we have learned by trial and error, right? Because we are all our own human experiment. So, so that being said, so any other questions about the patch before I end here with you guys? All right, awesome. Well, if you want more information about the patch, I'm going to go ahead and put up my QR code here. As you can see, it's in the bottom right. So if you aren't on your phone, you can also take a screenshot and scan it later. And this will also be on YouTube. So if you're seeing this presentation on YouTube, please take out your phone, scan. You can visit our website. You can see the products. You can see the testimonials. And if you want more information, you can please email me. I'll put the information down in the descriptive area on the YouTube video. So thanks again for joining me today. I hope you got some great information. And again, I appreciate you watching this and just learning more about ways that we can heal ourselves. So thank you
Quick
so much.